This video was made possible thanks to the support from my patrons. Pledge today and you can be involved in what videos get made next, and also get early access to them. Link in the description. I'm gonna level with you all. I'm a Doctor Who fan. But I'm not just a Doctor Who fan. I talk about Doctor Who on the internet. For a job. I file tax returns for this. Conversations with family and friends over the festive period was a bit awkward, and one phrase that kept on being brought up was, "William, when will you go outside and touch grass?" Will, don't you think it's time you touched some grass? With these phrases burning in the back of my mind, I looked deep within my heart and I asked myself, when did every Doctor touch grass? Yes, the Time Lord known as the Doctor lives a life that Whovians can only dream of, going outside and making friends. There have been multiple Doctors, and some of them find social activity difficult.
I'm still quite socially awkward.
With Ncuti Gatwa, we have a brand new Doctor, and I decided to look back over the past 60 years of television history and figure out how long it took each and every Doctor to touch grass. Now, this video was inspired by a gaming channel called Jorts, specifically their video on how quickly you can touch grass in every Mario game. There's a link to that video in the description below, check it out, it's really good. Let's start at the beginning with William Hartnell, the first Doctor, a grumpy and crotchety old man. Now, the first time we see him on screen, he's already lived presumably for hundreds of years, so let's establish some ground rules while we start with a complicated Doctor to analyse. For this video, we're going to go by pure screen time. I'm going to take every single scene the Doctor is present in, time it, and add up those scenes until each Doctor touches grass. In the unlikely event that the Doctor does not touch grass throughout their entire tenure, we will dive into the expanded media and take it from there. Also, what are we talking about when we say touch grass? Well, basically, any body part, clothed or otherwise, making direct contact with some form of living plant life. Grass, trees, leaves, shrubs, ivy. If it's a plant, it counts. If it's dead, no siree. If it's artificial, like a plastic Christmas tree for example, it doesn't count. So, the first Doctor is a grumpy old man who lives in a junkyard with his teenage granddaughter when we first meet him. Due to his abrasive nature and lack of friends, it's clear he has not touched grass for a long time. But school teachers Ian and Barbara force themselves into his time and space machine, TARDIS, and they're whisked back to 100,000 BC to a desolate wasteland. No grass to be found, unfortunately.
Dear, dear. How very disturbing.
He does venture outside to explore and run some tests, even lighting up a sweet, sweet tobacco pipe. But he's knocked out cold, kidnapped and taken into a cave by primitive humans. While we do know that there is a jungle outside of the cave, we never see the Doctor being taken through it on screen, so we can't confirm if his unconscious body touched any plant life. He's unconscious for a while, and he and his friends are held in the Cave of Skulls. Fortunately, however, they are able to escape when an old woman from the tribe frees them under the condition that they do not make fire.
You must go across the top and into the trees.
Okay, that's a promising sign for us. Trees count in this assessment. But no matter, because moments later, as the group flee through the forest, we see Barbara, then Susan, then Ian, and finally the Doctor touching grass. At just under 28 minutes over the span of 3 episodes. It's a respectable time for the leaderboard. Next up, we have the second Doctor, played by Patrick Troughton, who came to life on the floor of the TARDIS. Now, here, we already hit a bit of a snag. Firstly, the second Doctor's debut story is missing from the BBC archives, so it's hard to confirm just how much time he spends on screen. We do have an animated reconstruction, but that means there's artistic license to deal with here. But we'll go forward as best we can. The Doctor regenerated at the South Pole, and knowing that grass is hard to come by there, the Doctor operates operates the TARDIS and takes them away. Unfortunately, they land on the planet Vulcan, a volcanic world, and we can't see any grass in the landscape. We even get a nice view of the ground the Doctor is walking on and can confirm no grass. Unfortunately, sealing this Doctor's fate for a low score on the leaderboard, he is knocked out by a would-be assassin and taken inside of a human colony, where he and his friends are made prisoner and they have to stop the Daleks' latest scheme. The rest of the story is spent indoors, with the exception of the final scene on the planet's surface where they leave Vulcan in the TARDIS after the Daleks are defeated. In part 2, the Doctor grabs some fruit, but this can't really count, I'm afraid. This is a 6-part story as well, meaning that by the end of the serial, the second Doctor has gone a full, almost feature film length in terms of screen time, with grass going depressingly untouched. Clearly trying to make up for lost time, however, the next story is set in 18th century Scotland. The episode opens on the greenery of Culloden Moor, and fortunately for the second Doctor, this is exactly where the TARDIS lands. The Doctor, Ben and Polly step out almost immediately, according to the Telesnap recreations and audio narration. We even have the opening paragraph of the story's novelisation. The door opened, and out jumped Ben, followed by Polly. Then the Doctor emerged. They were in the middle of a small overgrown hollow. The ground was grassy and very damp. Due to the missing footage of this serial, The Highlanders, we can't get an exact accurate time for when grass is touched, but we'll say it's just before the 70-minute mark. Unfortunately, the second Doctor not touching grass until his 7th episode puts him at a distinct disadvantage, but we'll see how this plays out over the next 56 years of TV. We still have 13 more incarnations to go. Okay, Doctor number 3, Jon Pertwee. Oddly enough, we never actually see the change between Patrick Troughton and Jon Pertwee on screen, so we can start with a truly clean slate here. Start the clock. Okay, this time might be tough to beat. The third Doctor is number 1 on the leaderboard at 8 seconds. And even if we didn't have this opening scene, the third Doctor may spend a lot of his first episode in a hospital bed, but he yearns for the grass and spends the whole time trying to escape and acquire his shoes, which have a TARDIS key stashed away inside. He tries to flee in a wheelchair, narrowly avoiding the grass and sticking to the road and the footpaths in the chair. He abandons it in the grass and is shot by a soldier in the shrubbery. You could not keep this Doctor from the grass. Next, it's Tom Baker, who regenerated on the floor of Unit HQ. All he needs to do, really, is just step outside and the grass is there for the taking. But unfortunately, Unit and new companion Harry Sullivan want to do some tests indoors. He does try to escape, but Harry blocks his path, but he can still nab that silver medal if he's quick. He locks Harry in a cupboard and tries to leave in the TARDIS before being lured in by the promise of adventure and a secret weapon. Unfortunately, the costume changes and the comedy routines makes this a sub-optimum run, but he's still quickly outside, and not just touching grass, but examining it, learning about it, becoming one with it, and blowing a pulverized flower in the Brigadier's face. 7 minutes and 10 seconds. Not a flawless speedrun, but still puts the 4th Doctor very safely in the number 2 spot. The 5th Doctor, played by Peter Davison, who is first seen on screen already laying on grass. Now, I think this is cheating. It was the past Doctor who lived and died by the grass, so the 5th Doctor can't just co-opt that lifestyle, he's got to earn it. Also, this is supported by the episode itself, because the 5th Doctor is so exhausted with all the social interactions, being surrounded by companions and going outside, that he immediately has to go back inside of the TARDIS and go into the Zero Room and sleep it off. For the sake of the timer, we'll start it the moment he leaves the grass in his first episode. So the Doctor wanders the TARDIS corridors disorientated and flashing back to the days where touching grass came so naturally to him.
I wonder, boy, what would you do if you were me,
After a wardrobe change, he goes into the Zero Room to relax, all but confirming his place below his two predecessors on the leaderboard. The Doctor even makes himself float so he can never risk setting foot on the sweet, sweet grass again. Trying to channel his third incarnation, he ends up getting a wheelchair to help him move around as he saves the TARDIS team from being destroyed by Event 1. The Doctor is able to stop certain death, but had to jettison the Zero Room from the TARDIS, meaning he needs to go somewhere else with similar healing properties. Outside. Well, Castrovalva, but mostly outside. Thankfully, the TARDIS has landed sideways in dense woodland, meaning grass touching is a certainty should the Fifth Doctor step outside. Right? Right? The Doctor gets companion Nyssa to build him a makeshift Zero Room so he can lay inside like a coffin and his friends will carry him to Castrovalva, so he doesn't even need to touch the grass when he leaves the TARDIS. Genuinely, the lengths this Doctor will go to avoid grass. We get these lovely location shots of this gorgeous planet, aka Buckhurst Park in East Sussex, and the Doctor is not touching any of it, as Nyssa and Tegan put his new dwellings on a wheelchair and roll him along. The two make it to the outskirts of a city and put the Doctor down to take a closer look and find an entrance. However, a group of tribal people find the Doctor, and despite us seeing him open up the casket surrounded by lush green leaves, we never actually see the Doctor leave it, so as far as I'm concerned, we're about to fall behind the first Doctor on the leaderboard, and grass has not been touched on screen. Now, it seems the Doctor did crawl out of the casket himself. We can see clear bloody drag marks on the floor here, but because we didn't see it on screen, I can't count it. We see him stumble up a rocky hill, doing his best to avoid that patch of grass on the way. He climbs the rock, avoiding the small grass patches on the floor as well as the moss on the rocks, but near the top, and to steady himself, he grabs onto a small branch with leaves. As far as I'm concerned, this counts. Just over 26 minutes, ranking third on the leaderboard, just beating the first Doctor's time by over a minute and a half. God, that was an ordeal, wasn't it? Funnily enough, a few scenes later when he's inside the city, you'd think he wouldn't be able to touch grass anymore while he's here. However, someone puts a pot of celery down at his dinner table and he eats it. And then for the rest of the Fifth Doctor's era, he is wearing a stick of celery on his lapel. Now, this doesn't count as touching grass by this criteria, but considering how much of a struggle touching grass was for this incarnation, it's kind of heartening to see that after a tough and shaky start, the Fifth Doctor will forever and always be touching grass, as long as he wears that celery, in a manner of speaking.
Definitely civilization.
And then they cut before you see me spit it out afterwards. I'm really not terribly fond of it.
Now let's go for the absolute polar opposite of embracing the grass, the Sixth Doctor.
You're expecting someone else?
Now, we've got a multitude of problems here. Firstly, when the Sixth Doctor regenerated, he did so on a desert planet. Bad start. The Sixth Doctor spends a lot of his time choosing a new outfit, and as you're about to learn, differentiates himself from his predecessor by replacing the stick of celery with a cat badge. The TARDIS quickly lands in a quarry, and even if there was grassland here, he spends the majority of his first episode and a half in the TARDIS. This is going to be a recurring element with the Sixth Doctor, just to warn you. The Doctor and Peri seem to spend a lot of each story's first episode inside of the TARDIS, meaning that grass touching is kept at a minimum. Then, after crossing the quarry with companion Peri in what's considered to be one of the worst Doctor Who stories of all time, he's indoors. No grass. In part 3, he does land on the barren wastelands of Gioconda, but there's no grass here, just dead trees and dirt.
Doctor, it's absolutely ghastly!
He does try to find grass, even touching a dead tree, but this does not count, I'm afraid.
A trace of foliage. The very bark stripped from the trunks.
Just behind Perry, we can actually see forests in the distance, but the Doctor doesn't notice and does no touching, meaning that the 6th Doctor joins the ranks of the 2nd Doctor to touch no grass in his first story. But while the 2nd Doctor quickly made up for lost time, the 6th Doctor's follow-up is Attack of the Cybermen, another story set in quarries, as well as the streets of London and the back alleys, as well as a sewer and an ice tomb. It is the polar opposite of grass. The TARDIS lands in the Totters Lane junkyard, and a large tree is right behind the TARDIS, so this is a missed opportunity from the Doctor to complete the speedrun. In the London alleyway, he walks right past a large bush. He heads in the direction of another one, but turns the other way to avoid it. This is a really poor speedrun from the 6th Doctor.
I'm a fool. Of course I am.
And just when it looks like he's spotted the bush in the alley, he runs right for it, and then ducks underneath it. The 6th Doctor is going multiple serials without any grass being touched. We get to Vengeance on Varos now, another episode with a lot of studio filming and no actual grass. At one point, the idea of grass and the outside world seems so far away, the Doctor starts hallucinating the desert for the Part 1 ending cliffhanger. However, towards the end of Part 2, we get these vines and greenery in the studio. Could this be what the Doctor needs?
If you value your lives, don't touch those tendrils.
What is it?
Poison. One touch and...
Yeah, so this is really potent poison ivy. One touch and you immediately die. The fact that the Doctor does not die in this scene shows that he did not touch grass. It's probably for the best this time. It wouldn't really count anyway, because it's indoors. The TARDIS next takes the Doctor and Perry to 19th century northern England. Plenty of opportunities for grass touching here, thankfully. Unfortunately, the TARDIS lands on a dirt patch, and the Doctor is standing on a mound of not grass.
Some substitute for Kew Gardens.
But the Doctor quickly moves from the dirt patch and onto... I think that's grass. It's hard to make out from the camera angle. Thankfully, the next scene opens, and after 9 episodes and over 140 minutes, the 6th Doctor is finally on grass. But he's way at the bottom of the leaderboard. 2 hours, 21 minutes, and 51 seconds. As for the 7th Doctor, I'm spotting a trend here, regenerating in the TARDIS in a story that takes place mostly in a quarry or in a studio set with no plant life. It takes the 7th Doctor almost 10 minutes to get on location, but all he finds are skeletons and another really bad post-regeneration story, not helped by amnesia, being knocked out all of the time, and spending a large chunk of Part 4 strapped into the Rani's machine that will feed his intellect to an enormous brain. Screen time I did have to count due to the 7th Doctor technically being present even though he wasn't conscious, but his brain activity was messing up the Rani's plans, so he was definitely active.
It is a fundamental postulate that all motion is relative.
You wouldn't say that if you met my uncle.
He gets off to a better start than the 6th Doctor, however. By the time Colin Baker finished his first 4-part story, he'd clocked in over 57 minutes without touching grass, whereas Sylvester McCoy got a bit less screen time with 51 minutes. But it's still a sluggish start and a poorly optimised speedrun, because the 7th Doctor and Mel then arrive at Paradise Towers, another 4-parter set indoors. There's a close call in Part 1 where he and Mel spot some ivy inside of the dilapidated building, but firstly, it's indoors, and secondly, there's no direct contact as the 7th Doctor uses his umbrella. While obviously there is no grass to be found in Paradise Towers, the 7th Doctor decides to use his time here to rescue the citizens of this dystopian building and remind the audience of what happens if you spend too much time indoors. Unfortunately though, this powerful socio-political commentary doesn't make for a good grass-touching speedrun, and it guarantees him at the moment second to last place on the leaderboard by the end of the 7th Doctor's first 8 episodes. At first, it looks like the next serial, Delta and the Bannerman, will be a similar affair as the Doctor and Mel land inside some sort of warehouse before discovering they've actually won a trip to Disneyland on Earth via an alien holiday bus. Instead, however, the story was filmed on location in the Welsh countryside, which means they don't quite get the holiday promised, but it means there's plenty of grass for the 7th Doctor to touch. While this shot cuts off just at the bottom of his feet as he steps in front of the bus, we later get a wide shot of where the bus is parked and, yep, he was definitely stood on grass. I say this counts because we can just about make out where he stood in this shot. But what we can agree on, however, is that this is not a good time. 1 hour, 40 minutes, 39 seconds, firmly between the 2nd and 6th Doctors towards the bottom of the leaderboard. The 8th Doctor starts off with a few disadvantages during his run. Firstly, he wakes up in a morgue and has to literally break out. He's also got amnesia, meaning he has to find his bearings, some clothes, and his identity. He doesn't even know that he should be trying to touch grass at this point. Thankfully, it's New Year's Eve, so there's plenty of costumes for him to steal, and he quickly hitches a ride with Surgeon Grace. And he tries to get to second base with her by stealing her ex-boyfriend's shoes and insisting they go outside to break them in.
Perhaps if I walk in them, stretch them a bit, they'll fit me better.
Good idea. Let's go for a walk.
And it's here, around 11 minutes into the 8th Doctor's screen time, that we can see he definitely touches grass.
These shoes! They fit perfectly. Yes.
Love to see it. 11 minutes and 20 seconds lands him solidly at 3rd place on the leaderboard. As we never see a proper post-regeneration 9th Doctor, it means that Christopher Eccleston's incarnation can start with a clean slate. Meeting new companion Rose Tyler in a department store basement, he blows up the shop and tries to track down the living plastic arm at Rose's flat. He's about to leave to go and touch grass, but Rose pulls him into the flat. Jackie tries to hit on him and he ends up receiving a hand job. Obviously, this isn't an optimum speedrun to touch grass. Hand job achieved, he immediately rushes outside to go touch grass, and this one long take was so frustrating to watch because all he needs to do is just walk a few steps to the left or to the right to complete the run, but nope, they're sticking to the path. Until this wide shot of the Doctor and Rose walking on grass. At 6 minutes and 21 seconds, the 9th Doctor launches near the top of the leaderboard, even beating Tom Baker's time. Though I will say, thank God this wide shot is in the episode, because honestly, looking ahead to future scenes and future episodes, this may genuinely be the only time in the 9th Doctor's tenure where he's seen touching grass. Seriously, this single shot. Because in the next one, we can't see what he's walking on, and the two return to the footpath after that. The end of the world is on a spaceship and a London street. The Unquiet Dead is snow-ridden Cardiff. Then it's London and Downing Street, then underground in Utah, a space station. He almost brushes up against a bush in Father's Day, but just misses out. And in front of the church, he sticks to the path again. Then he's in Blitz-era London, then Cardiff Bay, then back on a space station. This one shot is all of the grass the 9th Doctor touches in the 13 episodes he is on screen, as far as I can tell. Is there a deeper reason as to why Christopher Eccleston hates Heaton Park?
And I tell you what, I hope nature takes its revenge on you, every single one of you, that leaves shit on the floor and in parks. And what you've done to Heaton Park is disgusting. And I hope the planet turns round and shits on you.
The closest thing I can think of are his interactions with Jabe, the living tree in the 2nd episode. Does it count if the grass touches you? These questions are above my pay grade. Anyway, it's not the amount of grass that counts here, it's the speediness of it. So Doctor number 9 is 2nd on the leaderboard, and honestly, I have a feeling he's going to be there for a while, because now we have the 10th Doctor, and this gets a bit more complicated. See, after regenerating in the Parting of the Ways, our new Doctor has a Children in Need short, and then he spends most of the next episode, the Christmas Invasion, in bed. So he's technically present in a lot of the scenes in Rose's flat, even if he's not on screen. I think it's fair to not count skits and sketches outside of the main show, just to make it equal for all Doctors. As for the sleeping, if we cut out all of the time unconscious, we'd have to do the same for all previous entries, and that sounds like a nightmare at this point. I'll try and be fair and judge these scenes on a case-by-case basis. If the Doctor is completely disconnected from the scene and is barely mentioned, it doesn't get timed, but if there's acknowledgement of him, or there's movement to or from the bedroom, or to and from the rest of the flat, it counts. For example, the scene where Rose and Mickey research what pilot fish are isn't counted, but Harriet Jones's broadcast being watched by the family does, because Rose goes into the bedroom during that monologue. This also means that when Rose and Mickey leave the TARDIS on the Sycorax ship, even though we know that's where the Doctor is, the timer stops and carries on when he's awake and the Sycorax starts speaking English. All of this to acknowledge that the Christmas invasion takes place entirely in London, the TARDIS and the Sycorax spaceship, so there was no hope of the 10th Doctor touching grass here, though he does have some fruit in his dressing gown pocket. Part of me wonders whether or not the hand that gets chopped off landed on a patch of grass or something, but until that's confirmed on screen, we have to keep the timer going. Thankfully, he and Rose are quick to leave Earth in the next episode, and immediately they step out onto a lush green field. Confirmed grass touch at 32 minutes and 41 seconds.
Apple grass.
Apple grass.
Yeah.
While the Doctor only avoids grass for one episode, it is enough for him to immediately fall to number 7. Even if we added the Born Again Children in Need skit, which clocks in at a few minutes long, it would not affect his placement, as the gap between him and the 2nd Doctor is too wide. But unlike the 9th Doctor, this Doctor would touch grass quite frequently, as there was a lot more greenery in the location footage this series. But it still wasn't a quick time, so the 11th Doctor decided to make grass touching a priority by crash landing in the back garden of Amelia Pond. It takes him a while to climb out of the TARDIS swimming pool with a grappling hook, but it's good to see that the first contact he makes when he falls out is with grass at 4 minutes and 22 seconds. He touches some more grass over the course of the story, which is good because, honestly, with the next few episodes taking place on spaceships, quarries, underground, and in Venice, the next grass touch, I think, is in Amy's choice, and that's a dream world, so thank God I don't have to figure out whether or not to count it.
I've cracked your flowers. Oh, Amy will kill you.
I mean, it's all revealed to be a dream, and they're inside of the TARDIS for the whole episode, but let me know in the comments section if I would have to count this or not, should the issue have come up. In fact, comment anyway, for the YouTube algorithm. But still, while not as quick as the 3rd Doctor, it definitely embodies Pertwee's spirit, and lands at 2nd place on the leaderboard. Now, the 12th Doctor is a fan favourite. People say he's one of the best Doctors of the revival because he channels so much of the spirit of the classic series. For this speedrun, I'm inclined to agree, because he also takes a long time and several episodes before he touches grass. Deep Breath, set in London. Into the Dalek, a space station, and a Dalek. And then Robot of Sherwood, where he goes to a forest. At least, that's what I thought going into this. You see, early on in Deep Breath, after being spat out by a dinosaur and spending time in Vastra's flat, the 12th Doctor climbs on top of her roof, watches a dinosaur burst into flames, and in his attempts to help, he leaps off the roof into a large tree. He hits several branches on the way down and ends up getting caught in the leaves. So yeah, to my amazement, the 12th Doctor does indeed touch grass at the 11-minute mark and winds up in the top 5. Not gonna lie, I really appreciate this, because cutting out all of the scenes the Doctor is not in for several stories and episodes is getting really boring at this point, but I do it all for you, the viewer, because you all wanted this important information, I assume. Now, the 13th Doctor, she is of course socially awkward, but her first story takes place in Sheffield, so her odds are good here. However, she falls from the sky and lands on a train, which is just bad luck and not good for our purposes, but she finds the nearest police officer and asks to be taken immediately to the nearest patch of grass. While it's set at night and the light is really low, it looks like the newly founded fam are walking on dead leaves and a stone path. Now, Do dead leaves count? I mean, they are in a forest, so spiritually, grass has been touched, but physically, I don't know. Now, we do know that the 13th Doctor definitely touches grass by the end of this episode. We see her standing in the field watching Ryan struggling to ride his bike. So, you know what? This forest scene counts. She's outside, she's with friends, in the forest, actually getting involved, she's touching grass, end of story. The socially awkward 13th Doctor touches grass at 7 minutes and 43 seconds. She's in the top 5, surprisingly. Now, the 14th Doctor gets a bit of a slower start than some of his predecessors, as he spends a bit of time in the Endless Void narrating to the audience before going to Camden Market in London to meet Donna and Rose. He hops in a taxi, demanding to be taken to the nearest patch of grass, and yeah, as he's investigating the steelworks, he has to sneak past Unit, which takes him to a patch of grass as he goes through the fence. Clearly, after taking such a long time before, David Tennant came back to optimize and improve on his speedrun. Still not enough to beat Matt Smith, but enough to beat Eccleston, as the 14th Doctor touches grass at less than 6 minutes into his life. 5 minutes and 49 seconds. The 14th Doctor could repeat this run over 5.5 times and would still be quicker than the 10th Doctor's grass-touching speedrun. Also, for those of you who are curious, you could remove all of the scenes of the 14th Doctor in the Void, and it wouldn't affect his placement on the leaderboard. It only knocks off about a minute. Now, we have the brand new 15th Doctor, and unlike other Doctors, he does not regenerate and then start his new adventures. He spends the best part of a minute just separating from his predecessor in a bi-generation, and then he has to help defeat the Toymaker in a game of catch on a rooftop and sort out the 14th Doctor's problems. Yeah, he's outside and playing catch, but they're not playing it on grass. It's hardly a way to live. By the end of the episode, which marks his first appearance, the 15th Doctor's time already stands at over 13 minutes, which sends him straight to 9th place. Damn, I knew that bi-generation was a bad idea, but I didn't realise its effects on the Doctor's grass-touching abilities would be this potent. Anyway, we've got the first proper episode with the 15th Doctor, The Church on Ruby Road, which has the Doctor back in London, on rooftops and miles up in the sky, which is literally the opposite of touching grass. I watched this episode multiple times for this video, knowing that the next episode wouldn't be out for another 5 months, and I did not want to push this video back for that long. This information about how fast each Doctor touches grass is too vital to Doctor Who fans. But it seems there is no grass touching in the Church on Ruby Road. The 15th Doctor, despite being outside a lot, dancing in nightclubs, being great at social activity, is unable to fully become the Doctor because he has yet to touch grass. We get to the end of the episode with the 15th Doctor at 47 minutes and 49 seconds. That puts him at 12th place, and he hasn't even touched grass yet. It's nearly 48 minutes and counting. The next episode looks like it's set in a spaceship, and then the following is rumoured to take place in Abbey Road Studios, so we could genuinely get the longest time period where a Doctor has yet to touch grass when all is said and done. It's fun to compare this episode to other Doctor introductions. Ncuti Gatwa is on screen for so much of this story, back to back to back scenes where he's present and involved, something pretty rare for the show. The Doctor leaping over the rooftops to rescue Ruby and then going back in time to save her as a baby is 24 uninterrupted minutes on the timer, the longest amount of screen time before I had to make an edit for this video. Good when it comes to making an impression with audiences, bad for this case study. God, is there really nothing here? There is the scene where he catches the Christmas tree to prevent the death of Davina McCall, but we don't even know if it's a real or artificial tree. And it's indoors, so it doesn't count. Now, we do have this moment where the 15th Doctor runs between the two hedges through the snow. No grass touch here, but snow. Wait a minute, he's running on snow! We can't even tell if that's a footpath or not. He definitely lands on the road outside, but for the rest of the scene, I mean, considering that person who drops off the baby is following that trail, and there's a hedge with a walkable route that leads to the church door, you'd think that it's a path, but we just can't know for sure. I mean, we do know for definite that this church is a real church. They're filming on location, so we just need to figure out where the Doctor's walking. So, According to @Sophus on Twitter, these scenes were filmed in February 2023 at St. Mary's Church in Newport. Now, this is the route the Doctor runs over before it's covered in the snow, and damn it, we still can't see if it's a path or not because of that white covering. Damn it, I can't just leave the video there. We have a brand new Doctor for this case study, but there are still just so many question marks. I mean, what am I meant to do? Actually go to South Wales and figure out what the Doctor was walking on? I live in Manchester, so to go and find out, I drove nearly 4 hours and 200 miles to South Wales to figure out just what happened here. I made my way to the literal Church on Ruby Road, aka St. Mary's Church on St. Mary's Road in Newport. So as we've seen from the episode, we can kind of gauge that the TARDIS lands around here, firmly on a tarmac road. So we can confirm this because on my left is the Waterloo Inn, which features in the background of the episode, and on my right is the street where the Doctor looks down and sees the woman walking away after dropping off baby Ruby Sunday. Now, if you follow the fence down here, in the episode, the fence is covered up by a hedge, and the production team really went above and beyond to make the church really picturesque. They added the street lamps, they added the sign. It looks like something straight out of a fairy tale. However, if you follow the hedges, or the fence in this case, down here, the gap in the hedge, in actuality, there's a gate here. And on the other side of the gate, I can officially confirm, grass. There is no footpath leading up to the back door where baby Ruby Sunday is dropped off in the episode. You can even see from the road that the back door of St. Mary's Church leads straight onto the grass. In light of these new startling revelations, I can confirm now that the 15th Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, touches grass, albeit on snow, at 41 minutes and 29 seconds. Which still firmly puts him at 12th on the leaderboard. But at least we have a confirmed end time, and can confirm that every single numbered Doctor has touched grass on screen. Now, these are the stats for the numbered Doctors, but I figured, just for fun, we can take a look at some of the offshoot Doctors in the show, both of whom we meet long into their lifespans. Firstly, the War Doctor. After an intro in Quarries and then the Time War and a desert on Gallifrey, he hops through a portal and lands on grass to greet his older selves at 8 minutes and 56 seconds. Well, he lands on soil and dead leaves, but if it's good enough for the 13th Doctor, it's good enough for John Hurt. And the Fugitive Doctor. She spends the majority of her introductory episode disguised as a human, so I'm not going to count any of that. Incidentally, if the 10th Doctor had somehow not touched grass for nearly 2 seasons, I would have paused the counter when he was John Smith in the Human Nature 2-parter. The Fugitive Doctor reawakens inside a lighthouse in Newport, grabs a weapon and her outfit, and when we see her behind the 13th Doctor, she is on grass at 18 seconds. Now, why did I do this? For fun. Ha! But the Doctor Who production team has filmed in some wonderful, gorgeous locations for the past 60 years, and working on this project has, ironically, made me want to go and explore this gorgeous church in what is technically another country. But in all seriousness, there is a certain naivete in just telling people to go outside and touch grass. Sure, it's a sentiment for go outside and socialise, which is often worth emphasising, but things like disabilities, anxiety, economic factors, and other invisible forces can prevent or make it hard for people to do that. Heck, I have a car, which is why I was able to film that end bit for fun. Not everyone can afford to own or run a car. So if we flip this leaderboard upside down, how badass is it for the 6th, 7th and 2nd Doctors to be able to save the world from the comfort of the indoors, besting the Daleks with their own power supply, stopping the Rani and her giant brain, as well as reforming and saving an entire tower block from fascists, and of course defeating a gigantic slug, kicking the asses of the Cybermen and collapsing an entire genre of twisted reality television, all before going outside. So when you think about it, the 6th Doctor is still the best Doctor in the end. Ha! Twist ending. Good night, everybody.
Even more of me.
Hey folks, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for watching me go on this crazy and wild journey. Thank you to Jack for filming here, helping me out today while we're filming at this beautiful St. Mary's Church. Be sure to subscribe if you like this video. Like the video as well if you did actually like it. Comment below, appease the almighty YouTube algorithm. Another way you can support me is on Patreon, because patrons help me to go on these wild, strange escapades as well. I want to give a shout out to these particular patrons: Adam Grattan, Ben Langdon, Brandon Kay, Tuba City Blues, Daniel Davis, Darius, Darren Cavabausinger, Dean Jones, Dreamer Who, Dylan Whittaker, Air Hoovian, Ginger Animator, High Lord Wolnir, Jack D. Evans, Joseph Adams, Large Dragon Ezra, Leela, Maria Bergman, Marianne Mogensen, Mario Fanboy 15, Michael Serrano, Miranda Logan, Nick M, Palex, Pat Andrews, Randall Sprinkle, Raven Woods, Reese Lloyd, Ross A.T. Stewart, Ryan Duncan, Sam Montgomery, Samuel Whittaker, Sarah Parker Shemilt, The Evil Dalek, The Brit Sniper, The Scarlet Watcher, Toby Loxton, Will, and Yavenu. Thanks so much to all of my patrons, thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.